Speedway Report is a production of ZTV. Well, it is Rolex 24 Monday. Florida Short Track Speed Weeks are also underway, and Daytona's stock car action will have a different look in 2021. All this and more coming up. Welcome to Speedway Report for Monday, February the 1st, 2021. We are live from the shores of Lake Norman in Race City, USA, Mooresville, North Carolina. I'm Patrick Reynolds, and thanks for joining the fastest half hour in racing. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel with Speedway Report. Doesn't February sound great? What's better, February or May? Each month has that magical sound or twang in the ear to racers. Which do you prefer? Great first poll of the evening in the Facebook comments. Yeah, right over here. February or May? I mean, after 2020, I think we'll take what we can get and whatever will remains to be seen, which is better. But what do you prefer? Traditionally, gosh, I love both. Both are special, but to me, there's nothing like the month of May. I would put February at number 2. However, a lot of my stock car friends would disagree with me. Maybe some sports car friends as well. And short trackers as well. We're going to get into all that here very shortly. Or why don't we get into it right now? IMSA opened their season with the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. The Rolex 24 at Daytona, taken by Wayne Taylor Racing. Your co-drivers, Felipe Albuquerque, Ricky Taylor, Elio Castroneves, and Alexander Rossi. Chip Ganassi Racing, oh so close. Cut a tire with a mere 8 minutes remaining, 7 minutes 50 seconds if you want to keep track of it. Renger van de Zande was behind the wheel for CGR when the tire went down. We were going to have a classic shootout, and even as it was, what a fantastic finish to this race. 5 prototypes were on the lead lap. I remember 20 years ago when it was this amazing story when more than one car was on the lead lap. There was still another car on the same lap as the winner. What an event. It now has become more of the norm that we just have these close finishes where after 24 hours, there's several prototypes in a slugfest. I'm going to talk about that tonight, how much IMSA has evolved for the better, but wow, what a show these endurance races put on. The Lucas Oil late models were down in Florida at East Bay Raceway last week. Let's recap your feature winners. Monday night's A main was taken by Hudson O'Neal. Tyler Erb won on Tuesday. Josh Richards on Wednesday. Thursday's race by Stormy Scott. Brandon Overton won Friday. And Saturday night's feature was won by Tyler Erb. Again, two-time winner, only repeat winner in Lucas Oil competition down in Florida tonight. The series is in, it's in Ocala, Florida, running tonight. So we're about 7:30, just passed on the East Coast. When it gets to the top of the hour, we clock out, head on over to Ocala if you are in the neighborhood. I'll talk about the Lucas Oil. I'll come back to these guys a little bit. I was going to say I'll circle back, but you don't want me saying that now, do you? Let's talk about the IMSA series. I touched on this a moment, how close these races are with the Rolex 24. It's mind-boggling to me when, even as much as last year before, I talked about the strategy of this race has been about managing your problems, not really a fast car or runaway. This has just kind of evolved over time. I first started watching this race. It was quite common to have the double-digit lap differences between the winner and the second-place car. This was really a race of endurance, a race of distance. Wasn't the car that went the fastest. It was the car that went the furthest. Always been. Until, the last several years, this has been a slow evolution of the bulletproofing of the cars, especially the prototypes that IMSA has. There is no more nurturing on this race. If you watch the green flag on Saturday afternoon, it was crazy. These guys were nuts. They were running an 8-lap heat race to get to the top 4 to make the A main later that night. This was not the start of a 24-hour race. These guys stick their nose in there, banging door panels and side panels, trading paint on lap 1 of the Rolex 24. Heck, the GT field had a crash before they even got to the start-finish line. These guys are aggressive. They're on it like short trackers. This is just the way of IMSA nowadays. These cars are so strong. that they last. There's not, I wouldn't say they're bulletproof, but they last. More and more cars last. And this race has come down over the history of it to a point where every team spent time in the garage. They were behind pit wall in the garage repairing and fixing something on the car. And the way you manage that is how you won these endurance races, is whatever you did, if you could change the transmission or the gearbox or the brakes quicker than everybody else, minimize your downtime in the garage area, you got back out on the track, you were the team that won the race because you managed whatever broke on the car best. That was the case. You had to spare everything. You had to spare everything after that, and you replaced parts as you needed. And the team that managed that the best, boom, they raced. They won the race. I was preaching, I want to say it was last year, no more than 2 years ago, that pit stall selection meant a whole lot in this race, because there is a definite end of pit road, the turn 4 side of the Daytona International Speedway, that's so close to the garage area. If I was running this race, I would not want the pit stall closest to turn 1 on exit. I would want the one on turn 4 closest to pit in, because the entrance to the garage area is right there, and I want the closest shot back to the garage area because I knew my car was going to go back there with something broken on it. Not so much anymore. These guys are running these 24-hour races. We had five prototypes on the lead lap to take the checkered flag. It was one very much a top finishing memorable race, despite the flat tire on Ganassi's car. What a finish to this thing. And it reminds me, as I gave us some thought, I think how my history of watching NASCAR is I grew up in an era of first started watching these 500-mile races where you had to take care of your car. There was a lot of guys that had good cars, good drivers, but they weren't aggressive and they weren't hard on these cars in these first opening laps of the first part of 500-mile races. These 500-milers at Dover years ago, guys would nurse their cars till the second half of the race. The World 600 at Charlotte, same thing. Guys would nurse their cars, and over time, and it was all over the entire history of the sport. But I think I saw this sport make a great jump in the 1980s, where in 1980, a guy like Richard Petty was dominating the sport as he won his sixth title in '79 and his seventh in '81. He spent a lot of that time taking care of his car, making sure it was around at the end of the race. During the 1980s, guys like Darrell Waltrip and Dale Earnhardt put the foot to the floor, won the pole, went out and tried to lap the field, and were just these hard-charging guys. When the car broke, they saw it as a weak spot, and the team would rebuild it and fix that and make it that much stronger. Junior Johnson and Richard Childress, by the end of the 1980s, were putting out bulletproof machines. And this has evolved into the whole sport, where today's day and age, NASCAR Cup cars don't really have mechanical breakdowns. You run them hard for the entire distance of the race, and it's fine. You are what you are. Don't worry about it. IMSA has evolved to that right now. We saw that yesterday. We probably saw it the year before. That is really not this breakdown thing. You see it at Le Mans, too, in summertime, where it's just, I love to see the evolution of this thing. I mean, I think it's fantastic. Strategy will come into play. But gosh, when you can have a speed slugfest, the guys trading paint, sticking their nose under each other after 24 hours instead of a 17-lap margin of victory, I think we've come a long way and have a really good product here with IMSA Road Racing. Heck, NASCAR stock cars in the Cup Series used to have this kind of margin of victories. Didn't Ned Jarrett win the Southern 500, and wasn't that the magic margin of victory, 17 laps, I believe it was? Well, we used to have that. It's nothing to even bat an eyelash at in endurance racing of decades ago. But now in 2021, we've got some good cars, some good pieces, and guys are rolling right along. I love this type of racing. Strategy is still a part of it. You still have to make it to morning and then race from there. But you can run this thing pretty hard as long as you don't wreck the car, because these cars are pretty solid. And you can thank the manufacturers for that. And what I found interesting on this is the finish of the race, when you had Wayne Taylor Racing and Chip Ganassi Racing really setting themselves up for kind of a shootout and a sprint to the finish, both with brand new manufacturers. It's not like they had years and years of relationship in working with parts here. Wayne Taylor Racing was brand new with Acura. Chip Ganassi Racing brand new with Cadillac. Now, Ganassi has a long association with Chevrolet in so many things, which bleeds into General Motors, but still Cadillac is not the same. Acura has had a very good, strong relationship with Penske Racing in the last several years till their sports car program closed down. Wayne Taylor is now an Acura guy. Didn't miss a beat, especially with the short off season. We had Sebring and some late races because of COVID push their season deeper into the fall this year. We had a shorter off season, and then they were down in Daytona for the Roar just one week ago. We were talking about that before they stretched that into a whole week. Even more impressive of Wayne Taylor Racing and Chip Ganassi Racing with Cadillac and Acura putting on the show that they did yesterday. Everybody, for that matter, pretty stout. Now, with this comes complainers, as always. Not that I'm not against constructive criticism on this thing, but NBC provided coverage of the IMSA Sports Car Opener, and boy, it brought out a lot of daggers from the IMSA faithful on their angle of spotlighting the NASCAR participants in IMSA. How do you want to play this? NASCAR is clearly the 800-pound gorilla in American motorsports. So if you grab the viewers that watch NASCAR, you can get some new eyes on IMSA. Chase Elliott gets a lot of coverage, as well as Jimmy Johnson, several of the other guys that were in the race. On the other hand, this is also on NBC. IMSA's time to shine and spotlight their own guys. Do you shove them off to the side and bring in the NASCAR guys for bonus coverage? NBC did that. They seemed to shine a lot of attention on NASCAR, and it was to show the rest of the racing world, maybe the sports car guys or the casual viewer, to try to draw more interest in the race. You could watch this race on NBC, NBCSN, which probably will not be around by the end of 2021, as well as a pretty good online package with NBC Sports Gold package, which is online. So you could watch this thing round the clock for 24 hours. I had to do a little research to try to think back, when was this race first telecast, legit, start to finish on television, 24 hours straight. And I believe my research led me to 2001. Speed Channel's coverage of the event, start to finish, had commercials, yes, but they were live throughout the entire race. This was the year where Dale Earnhardt Sr. and Jr. were each in the Corvette camp before Senior's fatal crash a couple of weeks later. But a very memorable, I remember that event, that was being the first one that went round the clock with coverage. Now, WTBS did some great coverage of this race for the time frame. I started watching this in the early 1980s on TBS. And they had, I believe, gosh, I'm stretching my memory on this one, but they had Saturday afternoon coverage for the first 30 minutes or 60 minutes of the race, probably 60 minutes of coverage, 30 minutes pre-race, 30 minutes start, and then they had updates every hour, every 90 minutes, whatever. So I would watch WTBS that entire Saturday night. They had some bad movies, they had some B movies, they had some horrible shows on. But I watched it because I didn't want to miss any of the updates, and they would shift. It wasn't always specific of we'll be back at 11:05 or 12:15 or with an update. It was kind of rough, and I didn't want to miss it, so I just stuck TBS as long as I could. And then they showed the final 30 minutes live on Sunday as well, so show you the finish and then a post race, as well as their regular updates throughout Sunday morning. So TBS really had, for the 1980s, that was really good coverage of a televised race. I think when a race was televised, it was a big deal for me. I missed very few of them. In the early 80s, when I first got cable, it was a miraculous thing watching ESPN and TBS and TNN and all that. But the coverage has come so far. I know, and we still complain about it because I think it's a new generation of folks, so you criticize what you have in your time frame. And so many of the younger viewers grew up with the technology, they grew up with the internet. It's always been there. When this had happened partway through my life, and I remember when cable television was just this miracle of technology, which introduced my eyes to so much more racing. I knew it was out there. I read about it. I saw it in magazines and newspapers, but cable TV was like a miracle for me that this actually happened. So when I talk about the coverage then, I was grateful to have that. And then in 2021, when we can go online and have different in-car camera views, and you do have a legit 24-hour service if you want to get it online, even though it's not on television so much, it still was pretty healthy. I think they had 18 or 20 hours on TV. It was still, I was still impressed with it, so it was good. Short track racing is even online. I watched some Lucas Oil Racing last week from Florida, threw on their Facebook feed or the streaming online. It was free too. I was watching qualifying and heat races and B mains, and I wasn't there every night, but I was tuned in for periodically throughout the week, and can just watch it. I think I'm very grateful because I remember my childhood when this stuff was not around, and I would actually have to wait a week until Speedway Scene arrived, and then I would open up the paper to see who won the races last week. But there was a story on each night as to what happened, and I read them all. I didn't miss a paragraph. I wanted to read about it and document it and put it in my head as to who won what and what was going on down in Florida, even though it was a week old. Now, what's going on down in Florida? Well, the Daytona International Speedway has a new look for the NASCAR world, as the stock cars will come in not this coming weekend, but it won't be until the following week. This change was announced a long time ago, but a lot of people are just grasping onto this concept. Now, the Clash is not this weekend. It is not Saturday night. It is not Sunday. It is Tuesday on the road course, and from Tuesday, what's our dates here? Tuesday the 9th through Sunday the 14th, less than 7 days. We will see the Clash. We will see Daytona 500 pole qualifying. The dual 150 qualifying races, the trucks, the Xfinity Series, the ARCA race, and the Daytona 500. Why are we doing this, mind you? Well, last year provided the opportunity with COVID to try some new stuff. We didn't have much of a choice because if we didn't try new stuff, we weren't going to race at all. So it's a combination of COVID making us to try something new. This minimizes the teams down in Florida with the travel part of this, if you want to think of COVID safety precautions. That leaves them in Daytona for just less time. There was the cost factor, which I always kind of shrug my shoulders at, because NASCAR has done many changes over the years for the sake of saving teams money, and they've done nothing but cost the teams money. So they can go that and wave their flag of that. I don't buy that at all, though. But one of the biggest things is the change in the NFL schedule, as the Super Bowl will be February 7th and the Daytona 500 February 14th. The Super Bowl, I don't believe, has ever reached into Clash Sunday. It has overlapped the Rolex 24 before, but really never really rolled into qualifying or the Clash. That has always been a week before, if that. And, well, let's tell it what it is. NASCAR and auto racing fights hard enough for auto racing coverage. You don't need to go up against the Super Bowl. Now, however, when you got guys like me disgruntled with NASCAR, but yes, absolutely, I will watch stock car racing coverage over any football game anytime. I have zero interest if a sport is played with a stick or a ball. Give me an engine that goes fast and you have my attention. We're throwing balls on a grassy field. Okay, if that's your thing, enjoy it. I'll be watching cars hammer out and get some big engines going, some big steam in them. But anyway, we've got a really new look to Speed Weeks this year. We had a really new look to all of racing last year. I prefer it how it was in 2019, but at the same time, who am I to tell folks trying to struggle to survive and just put on some sort of a race? A lot of changes have trickled down to the short track ranks as well. Screven Motor Speedway in Georgia traded the World of Outlaws to the All-Star Circuit of Champions. They usually have an end of January race. They traded the World of Outlaws, and the All-Stars raced instead of the higher sanction fee with the World of Outlaws. And what else do I want to mention? Oh, yes. Where is it? Right here. A few weeks ago, I talked about Bill Lester's book, and I talked about talking with Bill Lester. I have not received his book yet, as it has not been released. It will be released in February. I believe it's on his way. But I do have another book I'd like to show you guys. It will match as you see, the matching Speedway Report logo with the Speedway backdrop here. But we'll hold this one up, called Crash, by Jonathan Ingram. History of the Hans device, from Ayrton Senna to Dale Earnhardt Sr. We've come a long way, and I talked about that Rolex 24 event. Earnhardt passed away tragically a couple weeks later. That is the first event that I actually heard about the Hans device right here. It was sponsoring one of the cars down there. Now, the Hans had been around for a long time before that. This was my first look at it and hearing about it and the safety feature of that. Then Earnhardt's fatal crash, the safety aspect and push for NASCAR took off. But Jonathan Ingram, thank you very much. Sends along the copy of this book. Crash, Hans has done so much. Nowadays, I wouldn't think of anybody really racing without one. We're talking about gloves, helmets, soft walls, all the safety innovations in the sport that have come along. So this book I just unpacked today. I certainly can't wait to sink my eyes into it, as well as Bill Lester's book. It's due for release and should be coming along sometime in the near future. Looking forward to it, everybody. And I'm going to sign off tonight. We talked about Motorweek Illustrated and WTBS tonight. Our Racer of the Week, I am going to give it to Dirt late model racer Brandon Overton. Why? Well, he's a Lucas Oil late model regular. He won the Friday A main. That opened their season as these races down in Florida. There is no real champion of Florida Speed Weeks at East Bay last week. However, Overton left East Bay as the points leader for Lucas Oil Late Model Series. Ergo, to me, he's kind of a pseudo-champ for the week down there. He certainly had the best week of championship points. Makes him kind of a halfway-ish Florida Speed Week champion at East Bay. Basically, he had the best week in my book. Brandon Overton is the Speedway Report Racer of the Week. In between our broadcasts, keep up on the world of auto racing with SpeedwayReport.com. All of our past shows are archived there, so if you're having a road trip down to Daytona or Florida, download them, take them with you, check them out, listen, learn, love, all that. On social media, where am I? The Speedway Report with Patrick Reynolds' Facebook page, and on Facebook at Racers Reunion. On Twitter, I am at Speedway Report and at Speedway Pat. Our shows are in racersreunion.com, as well as our YouTube channel. Subscribe to that. Please, please, please. Big thanks to everyone on the Facebook live feed tonight and the eyeballs. I'll catch up with you guys in a little bit. And I want to thank all of the military past and present for the freedoms we enjoy as Americans in our daily life, including the simple things like bench racing right here on a Monday night. Freedom is not free, and a veteran paid that bill for us. To all of the men and women who are defending freedom and watching Speedway Report, you take care of yourselves and come home soon. A special salute to the teachers, school staff, firefighters, police officers, and paramedics in our own communities. They are quiet and modest heroes every single day. God bless and thank you. You've been watching Speedway Report from the shores of Lake Norman in Race City, USA, Mooresville, North Carolina. Please like our Facebook page, Speedway Report with Patrick Reynolds, and you can follow me on Twitter at Speedway Pat. Now, if you're on Facebook right now, head on over to the Drag List Live Facebook page. Bill Pratt and John Bachman will take you through the next hour. And if you're near Ocala, Florida, get to the track, Lucas Oil Late Models tonight. Now, I'll be back here on Facebook Live February the 8th. We've got Florida Short Track Speed Weeks, and we lead into racing. at the Daytona International Speedway. Thank you for watching. You take care of yourselves and take care of each other. I'll see you all next week.